Let's go, family. Happy Saturday. You already know what time it is. It's your boy, Crazy Faith, the God in the building. About to get ready to drop a quick value for you guys. 2 minutes. It's nothing short of a miracle. I'm here. I've got some blessings that I don't deserve. I've got some scars, but that's how you learn. It's nothing short of a miracle. I'm here. I think it over and it doesn't matter. I know it comes from above. I've got miracles on miracles, a million little miracles. Miracles on miracles, count your miracles. 1, 2, 3, 4. I can't even count them all. All right. Let's get it. Hope everybody's having a blessed and amazing Saturday. You already know what time it is. It's your boy Crazy Faith, the God in the building, getting ready to drop some quick value for you guys today. So today's topic is actually going to be the spiritual death, right? The spiritual death. So let's dive into it, right? What is the spiritual death, right? The spiritual death is pretty much, you building your spirit, you staying in spirit, right? You're staying in spirit, and then you start to feed your flesh, right? Once that happens, that's when the spiritual death starts to happen. Because what happens is two different types of lives that we can live. We could either live in the spirit or we could live in the flesh, right? Living in the spirit consists of, walking with God, right? Being filled with the word and just feeding your spirit positivity, right? Learning, reading, right? Learning new things, going out into nature, talking with God, and just developing your spirit on another level, right? It could be reading the Bible. It could just be reading a book that you really enjoy, right? Just staying in peace, right? Being absent from the flesh and just staying in peace with God, right? That's feeding your spirit, right? Staying one-minded with God, right? Talking about the word, going to church, feeding your spirit, right? So the opposite of that is feeding your flesh, right? Whether it's if it's eating too much, overindulging in eating, maybe chasing women, maybe chasing boys, that's feeding your flesh, right? Watching things that you're not supposed to be watching, right? Negative stuff that could be feeding your flesh, right? And what happens is if you're in the word and if you have a relationship with God, your spiritual life begins to die, the spiritual death, because you're going against the spirit. You're feeding the flesh. So that's all of that stuff is against the spirit. And that's when you begin to experience the spiritual death, right? You ever notice one day you're up and you're feeling vibrant and you're feeling a bunch of joy and peace and happiness, and then the other day it feels like you're dying. You don't feel like you're the same person. It's because, right, is one thing, right? The one thing that could be that's happening is because you fed your flesh, right? It might be just because you're having a bad day, but ultimately, right, if you're having a bad day, it's what you're thinking about, right? And another reason why you're having a bad day is because you're probably going against what you told God, right? You're feeding your flesh, right? You're not waiting on Him, right? When we don't wait on God, we tend to hurt ourselves, right? We tend to hurt ourselves, and that's when the spiritual death begins. If we go against our word, that could be a spiritual death too, right? If you have a covenant with God, you made a contract with God and say, you got to be true to what you said on paper, but you go against that, that could lead into the spiritual death. We got to be mindful of these things. Because if not, we're gonna keep going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth until we stay in the spirit. We gotta stay in the spirit constantly. Because the moment we don't, we lose connection with God, and then the spiritual death begins. And then you feel depleted, you feel drained, you feel like you're not the person that you need to become, right? You feel like things are just dying, things are not going your way, you feel drained, right? That's because you're not feeding your spirit, yo. That's because you're not feeding your spirit, you're feeding your flesh, right? And then that begins to happen. You begin to die, right? That's the spiritual death, right? And what begins to happen once you go down that spiritual death, right? And you begin to just feed your flesh instead of your spirit, right? You It's hard to get back on track, right? You got to dig yourself out of that hole. You got to dig, right? You got to dig yourself out of that hole, and it could be so deep that it could be hard for you to come back, right? But all things is possible with God, right? All things are possible with God, right? All things are possible with God. So even if you're in a hole right now, don't stay there, right? You have a chance to rise above all of that. You have a chance to shine your light, right? And I encourage you to stay with the spirit, because the flesh will lead you astray. The flesh is draining, right? The flesh is the flesh is draining. It's no problem. Not doubt, not doubt. There's no nutritional value when you feed your flesh, right? We gotta feed our faith, right? We gotta stay in spirit, right? That's where we see the most growth. That's where we see the life. The spirit gives life. The flesh counts for nothing, right? We gotta be super aware, super mind, being aware and super mindful of this, right? And we gotta also share this with others, right? You ever notice when you're walking super alignment, right? When you're walking in alignment with your with God, right? And everything is going good, right? And then you do something that goes against what you told God, you start to feel this uncomfortability, you start to feel this burning up sensation. That's because you're going against what you told God, and you're most likely feeding the flesh. If you're feeling any discomfort, it's because you're not in alignment with what you told God, right? And you have to fight for that. Whatever it is that you told God, you will get tested for what you told Him, right? Don't think it's gonna be a cakewalk and everything is gonna be easy and fine, because you will get tested in everything that you told God. This is what it is, right? This is why a lot of people don't make it to where they want to make it, because they don't keep their word. They feed their flesh over their faith, right? And that's a carnal mind is imminent to God. A carnal mind is imminent to God. So God is like, yo, you want to, I'm not even, that's not even me. I don't even move like that. So then that means you're listening to the enemy. You listening to the devil. You listening to Satan, right? Because if the flesh is not God, then who are you listening to? We got to be mindful of this. This is like next level information that we got to be aware of, right? Because when we're not aware, we get hurt, right? I'm going to leave you guys with this, right? Check this out. I'm going to leave you guys with this. I'm going to leave you guys with this. If you don't start paying close attention to your spiritual life, it will die, and then you will live only in the flesh, right? And then when that happens, you miss out on everything of the kingdom. You miss out on what God is trying to do in your life. You miss out on the new version of who God is creating you to be. And you ultimately miss out on the abundance, the promised land that He has for you. Because you're going against the word. You're going against what you told God, right? You're going against what you told God. So that's why that we gotta be super mindful of this, right? We gotta be super mindful of this, and stick with the new version. Don't go back to the old version. Stick with the new version, right? So I want to take a few minutes to pray with you guys. God, I ask that you guys to strengthen them and just transform their lives into the person that you need them to be, and to help them to protect their spiritual life, so that way they can see the blessings in the new version that you have created them to be. So that being said, it's your boy Crazy Big God on the way out. Let's go. Let's have an amazing day. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.